Hey there, it's Julie Hutchison here from Think, Beat, Do Leadership, and it's day 26 of Communication Fest here on. We're on live at the moment. So, what are we doing today? Today is all about timing. Timing is everything when it comes to communication, because what we're trying to do is increase our impact, increase our influence, and communicate better. And the point of communication is that we get our message across, or something happens because of what we said. And hopefully it's what we wanted to happen as opposed to what we didn't want to happen, or somebody feels differently because of it. And it's about influencing people in the way that we wanted to influence them. So, being able to change people's minds or get them to do that thing that you wanted them to do, as opposed to communicating or saying or doing or being a certain way, and it either having the wrong impact or no impact at all. And that's the problem if you get it wrong, because if you get it wrong, it isn't going to be what you thought it was going to be. It's just going to be not what you wanted, or nothing at all. So today we're talking about this timing issue. When it has to come out, it has to come out, doesn't it? I hear this all the time. People say to me, well, I just had to say it. And it had to come out now. It kind of fell out of my mouth. I hear that a lot. And the thing is, would you agree? When it has to come out, it has to come out. Of course it does. When you're inspired to say something, you should just say it. That's what people tell you about being assertive and positive. You should just say what you really feel or what you're really thinking, shouldn't you? Well, I'm agreeing with that in some way. Yes, you should say it if it's going to benefit you or the other person. But should you just say it? Should you just let it out? I don't necessarily agree. Not really, not at all. Because if the timing isn't right, then there's going to be some blocks in the way before you've even got your point across. Yeah. So you're setting yourself up to fail. And you're probably setting up the other person to fail, or just damn well annoying them, to be quite honest. So the person that you want to impact is not necessarily going to hear what you say. So let's just have a little look at that. I want us to think about, okay, what is it that we need to do to make sure our timing is right? So what's wrong with our timing? Well, if it's all about us, there's the first thing. Okay, the first one is that if you want to just blurt out what you want to blurt out when you want to blurt it out, the word blurt just says it all, I think, actually, is that you're just doing it because it suits you. You're doing it because at the time you either thought it or felt it, and you felt the need, and it serves you. So what's wrong with that? Well, if you think about communication, if it's all about what I want to say and the things I want to do and when I want to do it, then the other person, they don't feel like you really give a damn about them. They couldn't care, you couldn't care less, because you're doing it to serve you. So what happens when it's all about you is that, well, one, everybody can see that. Everybody can feel it, because if say I'm in the middle of doing something, I'll give you an example. I was on a call, I was on a conference this morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and my kids were getting ready for school, which is fair enough. And my daughter came in and she had a big long list with her. And she said, can I just ask you something? And she said this word, which did make me laugh, because it's classic. She said, can I just ask you something? Okay, so she made it sound really small, and she made it sound really important, because it suited her to come and ask me. And she is only 11, so I'll give her a due. And she's my kid and I'm responsible, and all those things for all of those who are going to say those comments. But what she said was, could I just ask you something now? Because it was important to her at the time. So I said, oh, yeah, and stopped what I was doing and turned around thinking, this is something important, because she's asked me now. She's asked me that, can I help her? So I said yes. And I had to laugh, because in her eyes, it was really important. And it was important now because she wanted to learn. She's learning Dutch. So she wanted to learn Dutch, and she's got a big long list of Dutch words. Mum, can you test me on these words? Now, as a good mum, of course I should, and all of those things. I should be ready to jump at the at any request for learning, at least for my kids. But in reality, it was really bad timing, because yes, it was important to her at the time, but it wasn't a good time for me, because I was in the middle of a conference supposed to be answering questions and all sorts of things. And so what happened was it made me feel like, stressed out. So am I really going to be focusing on whatever she or anybody else wants to get across, or the help that they need, at the point when it's just not right for me? Now, she's only 11. She's not even going to notice that stuff half the time. However, when we come into business, and we're talking about us as leaders, we need to notice, don't we? We need to look at not just our needs. We need to look at the other person, because yes, we have needs, of course. But if you really want somebody to listen to you, then the first thing we need to think about is not just ourselves, but is how can we put them in a position where they're in the most likely place to either have the time to listen or the ability to listen, because then it helps us too. It helps them to help us, as opposed to just ramming it down their throats or asking that question at the point when it makes best sense to us. And you might say, well, it's my right to ask that question and all those things. You're absolutely right. But you're not going to get the best answer, because the person in their head are just going to be more stressed or pretty annoyed at you of why are you asking me now when I've got other things to do? I have too much on my mind, or too many things to do, or you're putting me out of doing the thing I need to do. So it puts them in a frame where they're like, you're a pain in the backside to them. So you're never going to get the same response for your communication as you would do if you find out when the best time is. So instead, what you could do is say, when would be a good time? Or is this a good time? And making sure that you check that they've got the time to actually listen to what you've got to say, rather than like my daughter just coming in and saying, here, check my Dutch for me. And I do check her Dutch. So, and then we've got to be, so let's look at that. So it's not all about us and thinking about that. It's just getting conscious about ourselves of like, am I doing this because it just suits me and I'm blurting, or am I doing this because it's the right time? So getting conscious about that time, and now looking for, well, what are good times? Okay, because we have to realize that that person has to be ready to hear. So it's not always just about the fact that they might be doing something else. Let's look at the subject matter. Let's look at how that person is feeling. Let's look at how that person is in themselves, yeah? Or what state of mind are they in relation to this subject, okay? So not just like timing-wise in terms of what they're doing, but timing-wise in terms of the way they think at the moment, okay? So as an example, it's like, are they ready? Are they ready to hear this? I'll give you a little example. Is like, I'm vegan. Okay, I don't eat meat, and sometimes I want to tell people that they maybe should think about not eating meat as well. But not everybody's ready to hear that kind of stuff. And so if I am looking at that person and I'm going to say it because I think it's the right thing, yeah, it's going to fall on deaf ears if that person is not open to the thing that I'm talking about. Okay, so it's timing of my subject in terms of, is that person even open to hearing this kind of stuff? Is that person ready emotionally to hear this kind of stuff? Is the time right? Now, you might say, totally, this is the place, this is the moment I've got, because there was a chink in the armor, and there it is. This isn't about veganism. This is about your message, whatever that message might be. It might be, do you want to take on a new project or something like that? Could be anything. So it's about understanding, like, if I bring this up now, like looking at their mental state, looking at their opinions at the time, or those things, is there any point in even bringing this up, or is this like a step too far? Do I need to, I suppose, warm them up, take my time, as we're talking about time, take my time in helping that person to come around to this idea and get them ready to accept this piece of information or this point of view. So I need to maybe come from another angle and bide my time, so that I'm warming them up to listen and be ready to listen to the thing that I would like to get across. Does that make sense? Okay, so why is this important? Well, imagine this on that one. If they're not even ready, let's take my veganism once again. When people aren't ready, because it's really quite emotionally triggering, let's say, when people aren't ready and I say to them, not that I do this very often, but when people say, stop eating meat, meat is, you shouldn't eat it, it's bad for you, or something like that, all you get is somebody putting their hand up and pushing back at you because they aren't ready to hear that stuff. So let's take it back into a work environment. If you are trying to get somebody to take on an extra job or change their opinion or let you do your project that you want to do or get some budget, whatever it might be, get your team moving. If they're like, how dare you? Oh, no, that's like way too far away from them. You aren't going to get it. You've got to change that timing. You've got to look at when are they ready to hear. Okay. And it might mean that there's a time for something else, something a little bit more to the left of field, or to bring them into your way of thinking. Okay. But think about that, because the results are that it will fall on either deaf ears or it will fall on the negative pushback ears of how dare you speak to me about this, or I'm not ready for that. Oh, no, don't want to know. Okay. So, and remember that when people feel like you have taken their needs into account, then they're going to be much more likely to actually listen to you anyway. So if you do this when they are ready to hear, if you do this, whatever it is that you're trying to get across, when they are not up to their eyeballs in a conference, or they're trying to run out the door, or they're in the corridor on the way to the toilet. That's a classic, isn't it? Then you are going to have a far better response from people, because they feel respected, they feel listened to, they feel like you have taken their needs into account. Okay, so as I said, timing is everything. Are they in a place or a state where they are ready to hear? Don't do it when they're running down the corridor, and don't use the word, can I just have a moment of your time, if it isn't really a moment of the time. Okay, because it's got to be true and real for them. And if you take advantage of that and take up more time than you said you were going to, then they're going to resent you. And therefore, again, you're not going to get the effect that you want. You're not going to have the communication that you want, because their ears are closed. All they can think about, well, even if their ears are open, their mind is closed, because they're either thinking, I must finish this conference, I must go to the loo, I need my lunch, I've got to go home. Any of those things, tick all of them that apply. And therefore, you're wasting your message. So don't waste your message. Make sure that the time is right for them, not just you, and make sure that their mind is right in timing wise for what you have to say. Okay, so that is day 26. Day 27 is out there. You can find it, I'm sure, somewhere. When it comes, please come and comment and message me if you have found this of value, but also if you would like some help with actually implementing this in your business. So if it's you, great, and you need some help, that's great. We can put you into our Confident Communicator course. But if it's your team and you want to generally improve communication across the board, then give us a shout, because we have in-house programs that we can come and help you with as well, to make sure that you are implementing. Because when you implement good communication, then you are more productive and more profitable in your business. Take care. Julie from Think, Be, Do Leadership.